Delegations from Cuba and the United States met in Washington to discuss a variety of topics. Those included the human rights situations in both countries. The meeting dealt with technical issues meant to define the structure of future conversations about human rights. The gathering was proposed by Cuba. Now, during the discussions, the Cuban delegation shared the work it has done to protect human rights. Cuban representatives also expressed concerns about racism, the use of torture, and the lack of trade union rights in the United States.
During the meeting, we addressed topics of interest to both delegations, and Cuba communicated concerns regarding the guarantees and protections of human rights in the United States. In that context, we drew attention to the persistent patterns of discrimination and racism and exacerbation of police brutality with patterns of discrimination.
Correspondent Alexandra Hall now has details on the ongoing process of opening relations between the U.S. and Cuba and what many say could get in its way.
The latest planning meeting between the United States and Cuba was a first step in discussing a matter that the two countries have disagreed on for decades: human rights.
The
meeting confirmed that there are profound differences in how each country thinks about and exercises human rights.
In a press briefing, the State Department called the meeting professional, citing that each side had both raised concerns and expressed a willingness for dialogue.
We proved that it is possible to have civil relations while recognizing and respecting these differences.
So far, differences haven't gotten in the way of a process that's been speeding ahead ever since it was first announced less than 4 months ago. With the April 10th to 11th Summit of the Americas looming, experts say the White House saw its credibility in the Americas dwindling and needed to make a change.
The president did not want to arrive at such a summit and be surrounded by criticism for an antiquated, anachronistic, and frankly embarrassing policy. And so he wants to get there with an achievement of there are now diplomatic relations. And he thinks, that, I think rightly, that that has the potential to change substantially the tenor of U.S. relations with the rest of the hemisphere.
Even if the rapidly approaching deadline is met, other factors could still threaten the process somewhere down the road. Factors like a Republican president in the White House in 2017, or a parallel shift in leadership in Cuba.
You can assume that Senator Rubio, Senator Menendez will do everything they can to manufacture one or another form of crisis. And you can be sure that there are people both in the Communist Party of Cuba and among the so-called dissidents who will also try to manufacture confrontations so that they can demonstrate that a path towards normalization is a path backwards. But I don't think they're likely to succeed.
The United States has pressed Cuba on its policies towards those domestic dissidents. Cuban officials have countered the United States has its own muddled human rights record to deal with, especially in light of the recent debate surrounding alleged racism in the U.S. criminal justice system. As of now, no agenda for future meetings has been publicly decided. Alexandra Hall, Telesur, Washington.